Today, we're going to dive into one of the most dramatic and, honestly, mysterious moments in the entire Bible. It's the story of the prophet Elijah's final journey and how he handed off his incredible legacy to his successor, Elisha. And, it all starts with a real head-scratcher.
So picture this. Elijah is about to be taken up into heaven. This is the big moment. And what does he do? He keeps turning to his loyal apprentice, Elijah, and telling him to stay behind. It just feels wrong, right? It's completely counterintuitive. So what on earth was really going on here?
Well, this first part of their journey, it's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's really a profound test of commitment, and it sets the stage for literally everything that happens next.
And he doesn't just say it once. 3 different times on this final walk, Elijah gives the exact same command. At Gilgal, then again at Bethel, and one more time at Jericho, he tells Elijah, hey, just stay here. You don't need to come any further. But Elisha's response? It's rock solid. Every single time he gives this powerful oath. He's basically saying, absolutely not. There is no way I am leaving your side. He gets it. He knows this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and he refuses to be pushed away.
So why all the back and forth? Well, according to Dr. John Oswalt, whose insights we're exploring here, this was all a test. Elisha was checking Elisha's resolve. Was he really committed to the incredibly difficult job that was about to be dropped on his shoulders? And yeah, it's safe to say Elisha passed with flying colors.
Now, something you should know is that along the way they keep bumping into these groups called the Sons of the Prophets. Now, these weren't his actual kids. Think of them more like a prophetic guild or a support group. And having that community was absolutely vital for guys like Elijah and Elisha, who were often in a pretty lonely fight against some very powerful people.
Okay, so now let's talk about the journey itself, because this path they're walking, it is anything but random. Every single stop was chosen for a reason, packed with symbolic meaning that retraces the history of their entire nation. It's like they're walking backwards through Israel's origin story. They start at Gilgal. That's where the nation first came together to enter the Promised Land. Then they go to Bethel, where Jacob had his incredible encounter with God. From there, it's Jericho, the site of their first big victory. And the final stop, the Jordan River, the very place where the waters first parted to let their ancestors walk into their future.
So here's the crucial point. This path is a deliberate mirror of the birth of the nation. It's this incredibly powerful statement that what's happening right now with Elijah and Elisha is a kind of restart, a brand new beginning for the spiritual life of Israel.
Now, Dr. Oswalt makes a really important distinction here. He says Elijah is a reiteration of Moses, not a reincarnation. That doesn't mean Elijah is Moses reborn. It means his life's work is repeating the pattern of Moses, restarting the nation spiritually, kind of like how Moses founded it politically. And this whole idea becomes undeniable when they get to the Jordan River. Elijah takes off his cloak, he strikes the water, and just like it did for Joshua all those centuries ago, the river splits in two. They walk across on dry ground. It's a huge miracle that totally sets the stage for the final, incredible moment.
So, they've crossed the river. The tests of loyalty are officially over. And now comes the ultimate test. It comes in the form of a final request that is going to define the future.
Elijah turns to Elisha and asks this incredibly generous, open-ended question. I mean, wow. This is a defining moment. Elisha gets one shot to ask for absolutely anything from his master. So what does he ask for? He doesn't ask for fame or for money or even for the power to call down fire from heaven. His request tells you everything you need to know about his character, and what he truly understands is the source of a prophet's ministry.
And this brings us to one of the most famous phrases in this whole story, Elisha's request for a double portion. But what in the world does that actually mean?
These are his exact words. Not a double portion of your power, but a double portion of your spirit. And believe me, that distinction is absolutely critical.
To really get this, we have to understand the culture. A double portion was the legal inheritance of the firstborn son. He got twice as much as any of the other kids, which legally established him as the main heir, the one who would carry on the family name and legacy. So what Elisha is doing is asking to be named Elijah's true spiritual son and successor.
And here is Dr. Oswalt's key insight. Elisha got it. He understood that true spiritual leadership wasn't about performing miracles. That's the power. It was about the deep relationship with God that made those things possible. That's the spirit. He wanted what Elijah had, not just what Elijah did.
Now, Elijah's response,
is fascinating. He says, "You have asked a difficult thing." But why? Well, because the Holy Spirit isn't some commodity you can just hand over to someone else. The Spirit is a person. So the real question wasn't if Elijah could give it. The question was if Elisha was the kind of person the Spirit would choose for such a deep partnership.
So Elijah sets one last condition, and it's not a physical task this time. It's a test of spiritual vision. He's asking, can you see what God is doing here? Can you perceive the spiritual reality happening right in front of you? If you can, then yeah, your request will be granted.
And with that, we have arrived at the climax of the entire story, the ascension of Elijah and the final confirmation that the mantle has truly been passed on. So as this chariot of fire appears and snatches Elijah away in a whirlwind, Elisha cries out. He sees it. He passes the final test. And his cry is so significant. He's not just seeing a cool, fiery chariot. He's seeing the true power of the universe, God's heavenly army, the very thing his master represented on earth.
And just like that, Elisha's inheritance is complete. He now has the spiritual vision to see God's real power. And after a moment of grief for his master, he picks up Elijah's cloak, that physical symbol of his ministry. The proof comes when the sons of the prophets see him part the Jordan River, just like Elijah had, and they all say, "The spirit of Elijah now rests on him." The succession is confirmed for all to see.
And that really leaves us with the profound question at the very heart of this story. When we think about our own lives, what are we actually pursuing? Are we chasing the results, the status, the power, the gifts? Or are we, like Elisha, seeking the source of it all, a deep personal relationship with the divine?